Hey everyone, this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. In today's episode of the Duchess of Kingston, we're going to go ahead and work on the bow. This is all of the complicated, decorative, ornate wood pieces that go up. What do you call it? The figurehead, the piece on the front, and then all of the big photo etch metal that goes up there that really dresses everything up. I'm going to go show you basically my process for fitting all the individual pieces. I try to summarize a lot of it so it's not super repetitive, and then we finish up with putting on a lot of the cool photo etch. Yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and get into the build. All right, folks, here we are back in action. So today we are going to do some work on the bow of the Duchess. I did some initial things off camera. I put in the little horseshoes and the fishbone detail on the back. That's not anything spectacular. You just put some nails in, you hold it together. But up front here, we are going to do a bunch of work. And in order to save a bunch of time and boring you, I took it upon myself to accomplish a few things ahead of time. This is painted black. This area is painted blue. This area up in here is painted black, and above is black. And then these two decorative pieces of trim are put on. This is starboard side. They are both on the port side as well. Then we've gone ahead and right here, if I turn it this way, you can see these little notches. So some timbers sit in here. I've gone ahead and dropped them in place and done the initial fitting. That's why you see some black paint missing. I had to remove a little bit from each of those spots so that they would drop in and fit nice and tight. That is most of the prep work. Let's go ahead and look at our pieces for today. All right, it's all kind of scattered out here, and I apologize. We'll get closer up looks as we move on, but these three pieces right here are painted black, except for right in this little edge here, and I will be shaping the faces here with the timbers. These pieces dropped into the little slot that you saw earlier. There are duplicates of these in the instruction or in the parts in case we lose or break something and need to try again, which is great. Up here, these tiny little guys, there are duplicates of them as well. These are ready to go with the exception of final fitting, but what I did do is I decided to sand away the burned wood that you have normally. So you see there's the detail, and this would be brown, the burnt wood. But what I've been doing is painting these timbers black on top there. But these are going to be kind of suspended, and I decided I wanted this piece and I wanted this piece to have the natural wood shape on it instead. So I've gone ahead and sanded that off. That I did differently. The only error in the instruction manual, let's get that out of the way right now, is also these two pieces are not called out and they're not numbered. There are duplicates of them made, which is great in case they get damaged, but they're not in the instructions. So right here on page 41 of the instruction manual, this is the only place it shows this piece being installed and where it goes. Its part numbers 196 and 197 from sheet 6, the 1 millimeter thick pieces, and this is how it will eventually be installed. So, but for some reason nowhere in the literature does it call that out, and so far, like I said, it's the only omission to the instructions I've seen. All right, let's press on. All right, first order of business is installing bow brackets, and I realized somehow, I don't actually know how, this whale should have ended up in line with this blue section. And I don't know how that happened because it was installed with measurement from here down, I think 10 millimeters or something like that. Regardless, it doesn't match what's on the instructions. So you're going to cut out these 4 bow brackets, and then the instructions have you put one in down here and one in up here on straddling the whale. But they also have the front of the bracket in line with this decorative pattern here. So the one that goes on the top basically sits like this, lined up. And then this bottom one, if it was down here, it lines up in line with this bottom detail. So what I've elected to do, since the bow bracket is black, is I'm just going to set it on the whale and have it line up here the way it's supposed to go. And so what I've done is I've prepared the bottoms. You had to angle it quite a bit and put a little bevel in it so that it'll glue into position just like so on both sides. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, fingers crossed here. Got our wood glue applied. And I'm just going to kind of sneak it on in here. I'm looking for flush with the top of this trim piece right here, and I want the bottom to be flush right there with the bottom of the upper whale. And then tip it a little bit, try and get our angle right. And then this will get, all of this is going to get covered in a clear varnish, just like I've been putting on the whole ship, which will cause this flat black to match the black that we have right there. So that's not too bad. We'll go ahead and get the other one installed on the other side. Alright, now we're looking at these hawse holes right here. So they have these hawse bolsters, and I've had to trim mine. They want you to make those little bottom, the little dips, line up with the holes for the hawse, obviously. And right or wrong, so they come long, definitely come long, and they tell you so on purpose. You're going to have to trim this inside edge to fit into position. And because of the way my trim worked, this fancy detail, I had to put a little notch in mine to get it into place. So I'll go ahead and apply a little bit of glue, and we'll put these in on both sides like so, and that should satisfy. Oh, and then we can come back and do this other bracket underneath here. All right, press it on. All right, back at it. So now it's time to add this cheek, or I'm sorry, this bow, what we call it, a bow bracket. It goes right like this, and it's in alignment again with this piece of trim. Because of my previous alignment issues and things, whatever you, it ends up laying on top of this hawse bolster right here, right? And because it extends past, it's longer. See over here? I need to cut a little tiny piece right there to make it all kind of work. And I thought about things, and I realized I should just eliminate this piece of wood on the hawse bolster. So that's what I did over here. As you can see, it mostly lines up, and all I did, because this is pear wood, I just very carefully ran my knife along here. It matches the grain, and it came right off. So now this bolster will sit, or I'm sorry, this bracket will sit right under the hawse bolster like that. Get a little light here so you guys can see. In position, like it's supposed to be, basically, right? Like this. Yeah, so anyway, right there. So anyway, we'll shape it up just like we did the other one, and we'll glue it into position. We'll press on from there. Okay, here we are on the port side, and there's our piece glued in like I was trying to show you before. Hopefully you can see that it all lines up very nicely with this trim. The angles match and it works. So I'm really happy with it, other than obviously this upper whale kind of runs in and you have this space and whatever. I'm not sure what happened there. We're going to leave it and move on. So the next thing that we got to kind of figure out is these pieces. So I have not, all I've done is trimmed them up to fit into position right here. And they actually, you get two of them, two sets, like I mentioned earlier in the video. They slide in really well. They do just the tiniest bit of trimming, and they fit very snug. They look good. So what I'm trying to work out, though, because this piece, next piece is supposed to be fitted, you're supposed to trim an edge off of right in here, this little slot. And I'll show you why here. Alright, so you have this very fine decorative piece, and it is supposed to slot in here or sit in here at kind of an angle. It is way too long. As far as I could tell, it's supposed to terminate right here inboard of this hawse hole, so basically like this. Right? I'll hold it here. And then move up towards the prow, and that needs to be trimmed off as well so that this piece of trim terminates, I'm imagining, or from what I could see in the pictures, basically like that at an angle. It does need to sit, this piece of wood, this piece of trim does need to sit well within the gap here, because on this face and this face we're going to lay a piece of decorative photo etch that goes over it. So what I'm going to do is put a little chamfer on this edge right here, and then I'll just trim this to match, and we'll put it in position. I'm going to leave these loose so I could trim it first and then drop them into place. Check the angle, and when I'm happy with it, I'll put a little glue on them, and then we'll go ahead and we'll glue this little fine piece of trim in position. Alright, so this is all dry fitted into position, and I have this decorative piece in place where I think I want it to go. I think it looks good. It's going to be inside that bolster hole there, and it's right above the bracket, and then we terminate nicely up here in the front. And it has a nice angle, and you can see from the side here, you can still see the decoration. I think that looks good. And then from the top, it angles out nicely. Now, what I'm going to do, leaving all of this dry fitted here, is I'm going to go ahead and try and replicate and get this exact same angle on the other side. And then I'll go ahead and glue them into position. I am running a bit of a risk though. I have not chamfered these edges where this big decorative piece is supposed to go. Something like this goes on there like that, and it's supposed to terminate on those pieces there. So I'm going to have to, if I glue these in, I'm committed, and I will have to very carefully sand them down. I might put a little bevel on them ahead of time, I don't know. I also want to go ahead and touch up all of this black paint in here before I move on, because it's easy to access right now. You know, we've got sawdust and junk all over the place. And then we also, I want to touch up the paint right in here. You can see where I carved away to make room for that piece of decoration. I want that black as well, you know, before we commit to everything. So that is kind of the process. I've also put, I should show you, on the back of this, to help get it to fit, there's little notches. See the light areas? Those notches help this piece fit into position and keep the detail side with the little lines in it out. Otherwise, it wants to roll, and these would be pointing down towards the sea. So that is how we're getting to this point right here. And so we just got to duplicate that on the other side. All right, pressing on. All right, we're back, and we've installed our curved piece. And as you can see, it's fairly uniform. I feel like we definitely have the same angle, and it's basically parallel to the bottom two pieces as well. And it looks pretty nice, I think, right? And from the top here, you know, we've got a nice even little angle going on. Okay, so that glue is drying, and while that's drying, we're going to work on this hawse hole right here. I believe that's what it's called. I'm sorry, the cat heads. So the cat heads, I've already pre-painted this back part black just to kind of get the show started. But you can see it's a fairly large square. And I say fairly large because that's the hole that it's got to fit through. It's not very big. What they want you to do, the instructions, is get your square file out and slowly work away at that until this cat head slides through naturally and sticks out on the other side. So I'm going to begin doing that. If I run into any quandaries, I'll go ahead and stop to fill everyone in. And we'll let this set up and dry nicely and hopefully get our cat heads installed. Press on. Alright, here is the porthole for the cat head. And as you can see, I had to remove a fair amount of the trim piece that went in above it. The hole on the inside of the ship, right here, is really close to the proper dimension. So when you work from the inside out, things go pretty smoothly. I ended up using my knife to go inside and work away some of the internal timbers, and then I have 2 different size square chisels, or files, sorry. This one's a little bit too small. It doesn't work exact, but it's close, so you could just kind of fine detail it. This one's actually too big. If I ran it all the way through, there'd be a lot of extra slop. The cat heads themselves, I've left them painted the way they were. I did have to bevel the bottoms. You can see here the paint is removed so that it sits inside of the ship and up against the hull nicely here. So we'll stick the other one in. We'll take a quick look. There you go. As you can see, they're snug in, fit up against the deck at the right angle, and protrude out the ship. So I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead. I can paint them. There's enough slop here that I can get them through without scraping up all the paint. Then we'll get some glue on and stick them in a position. Then we can go back to the bow detail and all the complicated stuff that happens there. Pressing on. Alright, we have returned. I have skipped ahead a little bit here on you, and as you can see, added these supports to the cat heads. They required a little bit of shaping, and they're supposed to, I can't tell if they're supposed to go straight up and down or follow the curve. It seems like they're supposed to follow the curve of this piece behind it. So that's what I did. I shaped everything to just kind of follow along that edge right there, and it should be okay. So photo etch goes on it. I think it'll be fine. And yeah, so now basically the main parts of all of this are done. Now we can move on to our big decoration pieces here. These things. Okay, so roughly, according to the picture, they go like this, basically. Try and hold it into place. Guess not. Put it like that. That's how they go, which is nice. And it almost, oh, there we go. Almost fits perfectly. Almost could just glue it in just like that and call it a day, right? Except... that's not how it's supposed to fit. So if I put my finger here, there's our gap. We're supposed to be up against those timbers, and they're supposed to be beveled a bit to allow that to happen. And if I bend this in, actually, a little bit more, so it's curved down a bit instead of being, you know, straight up and down. If I curve it in, there we're getting to what the designer intended. Now we're actually kind of touching everything here. What we need to do though is bevel these edges so that they work. And so what I'm thinking, let me adjust the camera here. All right, now that we're in real close, this one's pretty clear. I just need to bevel just this little edge. This middle one's a little more difficult. I'm going to stick to the top. I'm going to stick from here up with my bevel and leave a little ledge. And then up here as well, just this top little bit is all I'm going to very carefully remove with my knife. And I think that will get the finish fit that we want for this piece. That's going to slide in here and tip it at an angle. See how it's supposed to, it should tip down a little bit, like that, curved. So, sorry about the focus, I'm zoomed way in close here. So we'll try that, and I'll come back here and show you kind of the bevel that I put on. All right, that is the wood that I've removed, and it mostly makes contact everywhere, and it tips down just a little bit. It's going to go on like that, and it should look good. It occurred to me that perhaps this piece should be flat and that this one should be tilted down more, curved, so that this kind of comes up at this nice angle. But, you know, this is not that complicated of a kit. It doesn't do that type of thing. So now all I have to do is glue this into position so we can take a look at it, see if we can do that here on camera. All right, we're going to start with generous dollop of wood glue on each of these points, and we are going to cross our fingers, and I just kind of need it to hold in position, like close enough, and then I'll come back with some CA glue and wrap it all up, lock it into position. So we're like this. I'm trying, there we go. Trying to make sure that it contacts all of these little supports, and that I have some sort of hope of reproducing this on the other side, the same angle as much as possible. Like that. And we'll let it be, and I'll put the other one on. We'll come back with you with that all done, and I'm also, yeah, we'll come back with you when that's done. Well, good morning. We're back in action. It's been a minute. So everything's kind of shiny. I went ahead and glued all of these parts in just like I had mentioned before, touched up the paint, and I put on a coat. You can see here some glossiness of our semi-gloss clear varnish on the details that we've been looking at up here. So now it is time to go ahead and work on this little fancy piece that goes up here, the figurehead. So we're going to put our figurehead into position, and I did it per the instructions sort of. So I removed the piece off camera, and I went ahead and primed it with some metal primer, which is a good idea for resin pieces, and then I went ahead and sprayed it with some Tamiya white primer so that it was all set and ready to go, and then we've got it to this point right here. So the figurehead sits in position right here. Couple of things. The instructions, we have followed them in order, right? They want you to do all of this just like you see, and then go ahead and install the figurehead. Here's kind of the issue. First of all, the shape, if you will, this back here and this bottom and the front, it's meant to sit in this opening that you see right here, okay? But as I move this up in the light, you can see that the curved decorative pieces are in the way, and then we have this curved piece on the top. So it is actually very difficult to push it down into here and get it to sit where I want it. It would have been better if I had slid it in ahead of time and then put all of these trim pieces on. So consider that if you're doing this build, putting the figurehead in much earlier. The other issue, so I do have it so that it will pop in here and fit. There we go. Like that. Primed up. Let's see, there's a gap right underneath right there. And I don't want to monkey with it too much more as far as fit. I think it sits into position nicely. I need to fill this gap. I'm either going to squish some putty in there, or what I think I might do is pull this out. we'll just attach like a little piece of wood to the bottom of this, and I'll sand it down until it's the right thickness that it can drop into position. So I'm going to do that, and then we got to paint it. So the figurehead, fortunately, is pretty simple. It's almost all completely gold, or in this case our brass color, which I've been using the AK True Metal brass, because this matches almost exactly the photo etch brass, and I don't have to change the color. You can see back here, some of this is photo etch brass, some of this is painted brass, and if you didn't see from the last episode, I'm not going to tell you which is which. That's how well it matches. So, but we do need this blue painted in here in a lot of these little recesses. So I'm going to go ahead and get my piece of wood, then we'll come back, we'll apply the blue, and then we'll apply our brass and let this dry up so we can get it installed. Alright, we've gone ahead and gotten a little block of wood placed down here in the bottom of our piece that should help with the fit, and we're going to go ahead and just start applying our blue that we've been using this whole time to some of the, I guess I'll call it negative spaces in here. And I'm doing this first because if I get some excess like that on some of our detail parts, like, it doesn't really matter, right? So this is a good opportunity for filling all of this in. So we'll do this first. Under this lip right here on the top, there's a little bit of a gap. I'm going to have to probably put a little bit of putty in there, I think, to fill that hole. But that'll be fine. So we'll just go ahead and glop this on here, and we'll come back and we'll start working on the brass color, which of course we have to be a lot more careful with to get all of our details right that we want popping out. Alright, pressing on. Alright, we've got some blue on, and now we've got our AK brass color here. I've smudged some out. Remember, a little of this goes a long ways. This little pile right here is way too much paint, most likely for what I need to do here. But we're going to go ahead and it's wax based. So once you put on, it is a little thick, and you got to go ahead and just smooth it on out to work out your brush strokes and everything. And, you know, just keep on applying it until you're all said and done and happy with how it looks. Once it dries, you may have to come back and put a little bit more on, but that's the way it goes. So we'll go ahead and just do this until it's all the right color. Pressing on. Well, good morning again. In an effort to maintain our stock of 3D printed stuff, you hear the shop vent fan running in the background there because our two printers, Anton and Bruno, are hard at work. I got that going. And today, or first thing, our headpiece here is, our figurehead is finished well enough. The more I touch it, the more paint comes off. But it's finished enough that we can glue it into position. We're going to have to do some touch-ups via some wood-colored painting and some putty here, ultimately to fill in all of our little gaps and make it look exactly the way that we want, but that looks good. And we'll do that kind of like intermittently as we go here, because there's a bunch of other work we have to do. But now that it's in place, I can touch it up and I don't have to put my hands on it much anymore. So that looks pretty good, right? In position like so. We still have some gaps. I tried filling it with wood. It worked and didn't work, and then it fell into position. As it was. But anyway, that's nice. So, okay, what we're going to do now is I'm going to fill in some little spots with putty. You can't even really see it, but there's a gap there, and there's a little gap in the front. We'll touch up some of this wood with wood-colored paint, and we will go ahead and then touch up other paint as appropriate. So while that is happening, it is time to press on with things that are exciting. And by exciting, I mean all of the decorative photo etch. So let's start that process. And by start, I mean go dig out the photo etch. All right, we're getting going here. I've got our two, I'm assuming, main sheets of photo etch out, and for the decorations that we need. And then if you also grab, here's sheet 4, the instructions. Here's a breakdown, the plans with each of these photo etch parts labeled, because I don't think they're labeled on the brass etchings themselves, so you can reference what's what. I did make a mistake though, and I must apologize. Remember when I said earlier that it would have been better to have slid the brass figurehead into position first and then attached this side stuff? It seems that the instructions also agree. Had I pulled the plans out, it would have seen right here that it called out for, right here, paint the figurehead gold and then slot it into place, followed by parts 200 and 201 for the right side and parts 202 and 203 for the left side. And that would have eliminated the fit issue that I had. So that basically this is a self-inflicted problem that I have, and definitely not an error of the instructions. I should have gone ahead and referenced these first. Also, let's see here. Parts 196 and 197 are identified right here and probably explained in the verbiage right here for installing them. That was the part I said was omitted from the photo etch instruction, or the photo instruction. So we're kind of getting to the point in the build where you definitely have to bust these plans out and take a good look at them. That is something I'm guilty of not having done a very good job of. Now, the instruction book does say pull the plans out now at this point to see the placement of all of your photo etch details and where they go. That is nice. I should have referenced them a little bit earlier though for this part. So we're going to use these pieces, parts, and we're going to go ahead and start putting on all the fancy gold. All right. Some of the instructions, like if you look on the plans, they tell you to install this stuff kind of as you go along. And I would agree with that statement. You should kind of do that as you go along before you put all this detail on. But this is YouTube, and that's not as exciting, right? So we're going to go ahead and make all this work like this as we go here, make it kind of a big reveal. And I think it's cool to see the ship, all these parts put on, all the wood before we add all this fun extra detail, right? I just think it's a neat look for everything. So these pieces aren't too bad. They float a little bit, but once again, you have this excellent thick photo etch, and it makes it really easy to span these little distances and get your shape right. I am trying to center them a little bit here over in the black, right? All right, last one. Okay. Tweezers are an important part of this whole process. Make sure you have a pair of tweezers that you like. And something else to push with here. Because this one is floating over and around the wood support right there. I'm using CA glue. This would be an excellent opportunity, if any of this makes you nervous, to use the E6000. I can actually get it in these small tubes at my hardware store, so I don't have to use the big ones. But this works. I've also, this sheet that I showed you earlier, with all the part locations has been critical because they are not numbered anywhere on here. The sheet itself is numbered right there, but yeah, the detail, you're going to have to go ahead and figure it out. You use the instruction manuals, sheet 4 and I think 5. You're going to need that one as well to figure out where all this stuff goes. Okay, so that part's in. Now I want to go ahead and do these supports right here. That's photo etch part 22. For these, you kind of have to make a little bit of a decision about where they're going to go. You can either terminate it all the way at the back here or start out in the front. And I've elected to start evenly at the bow, most forward position of the decoration. And they do curve a little bit. Try the best you can to center it. It's not perfect. It looks so awesome. Who cares? You can apply the CA glue on here in advance like I did, or you could go ahead and put it on your photo etch ahead of time as well. Whatever you feel like doing. I would just recommend that you skip a space so your tweezers could go on. It's really most important that you get the front and back, the ends of these things. Everything else, it kind of can float as it wraps around, right? So push that down right there. Gonna hold it. And go like this. And you're set. Looks good, right? So I'd mentioned earlier that I was filling it. So I did some touch-up paint on the gold, and I think you could see some of my filler right here. This whole space is supposed to be varnished, which is why the blue doesn't quite all match up. I'm going to go ahead and put the photo etch in a position anyway. Like clean some of this up in here. I'm going to touch up my paint once it's in, and then I'm going to lightly go over all of it with varnish because it'll help lock this piece in, and it's not going to look bad. It'll work out nicely anyway. This is photo etch, so I want to put this big blue piece in, and that's photo etch piece 58. So let me find that. So there's actually a 58 and a 59, so make sure you just double check your direction with all of this. You have to watch your positioning a little bit because we do have this hole where rigging's going to go through, and we need to make sure that we don't lose that. This decoration does go around it, just like that. See how you have your space there still? That's a really nice piece though, and it looks good. Okay. Now, let's go ahead. These are kind of more tricky. So it's like warm up outside, and then we'll just put these interior pieces on. Again, this is something that would be like, let's just knock that out right away early on in the construction so that you're not trying to reach around here. But like I said, this is more interesting, I think. Like this for now. I know that this beam's blocking the way, but that's all right. Alright, this is a terrible shot, but basically this piece needs to drop in here, and it's hard to do with the camera. So I'm going to take a second just to install it. Alright, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. So this is piece 49, I think. Drops right in here. And I don't know if you can, probably can't make it out. There we go. I'm hitting my cat head right here. So I don't want to lose this detail up in the front, but I don't think there's any foul in trimming or harm in trimming a little bit of this off. So what I'm going to do is get as close as I can. I don't want it to turn into two pieces, but if it does, it does. And we'll drop it back into position, see if that doesn't help it fit. So I'm real close here, just not quite enough. So we're going to have to cut it a little more. Like this. There we go. So now that fits into position. So just be strategic about if you have to trim a piece, where you trim it, so that obviously you don't want to lose this flourish on the end. You just have to pick out the right embellishment to keep and the right one to let go of. And it'll all work out nicely because a lot of this is going to get covered up, right? Not to mention there's a bunch of detail that goes on the cat head that's going to look really nice. So there we go. That piece is in. And it looks good, right? Okay, so next one's probably the toughest piece of all. It goes on this curve right here. Right along this curve. And the problem is this is flat and curved, and then we have a step, and then we come up onto here. And I had to monkey with the positioning of this stuff. So what's going to end up happening is we'll put this piece on first, and then there's another detail that comes down here, and it's going to end up laying up over the top of the part we install right here first. So let me figure that one out. Alright, this is photo etch piece 17. So it's kind of got to lay on here and float up like that. And I'm going to have to push it in a little bit. And I'm thinking you can see that from the camera angle we've got established right here. So I'm pre-bending it by pushing it down. And again, this heavy brass kind of takes the shape nicely. So we're going to leave it like this. And we're going to get some of our CA glue piled up. Alright. And we'll come in here. Start it all the way at the bottom, try and keep it centered. Push it on like this. And that's going to work. Now the next piece we'll install, it starts at the top of the cat head and comes all the way down like that. Alright, this is our photo etch piece 18. They're both numbered the same for both sides. So you have a lot of detail on the bottom and not as much on the top, but this is in fact the way that it goes. So start with the detail up at the top. I don't have any glue on this. I'm just going to hold it in a position and roll it down and push it in. And it's going to overlap on the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a kink here just to help with following the shape that we've got so that the glue hangs on better, has less stress on it. There we go. Like so. Alright, same thing. Get your CA glopped on here and we'll put it in position. Alright. Butt it into the top. Do your best you can to center it. And then have it wiggle all over the place on you like this. There we go. And hold it in position. Okay. Looks like my glue, did I run out of top? No, we're good. And then, I know I'm ruining the shot, but just stick your thumb on it, hold this stuff into position. Make sure it sets up. You don't want it moving around on you after the fact. Okay? Nice. Alright, now we're interested here in the side of this cat head. There are two pieces, they're both the same. I'm going to show you the installation of this one. The other one goes on the exact same spot on the other side and is just way more difficult to film. We're going to drop it in like this. And what I'm doing is placing the top of the circle flush with this part of the cat head that sticks out right here. That's the idea right there. And I might have to touch up a little bit of my glue, but that looks good. So then the other one goes on the opposite side, you know, right there on the inside of the ship. So I'll put that on, then we'll move on. All right, I did figure out how to show this better. So there's that piece. Now we have this decoration on the side of the cat head, photo etch piece 13. It goes on both sides. I'm opting to try and bring it all the way to the face of the cat head right here on both sides is the idea. And I'll go ahead and stick the other one on. Looks like that. All right, last but not least, there's this detail on the end of the cat head. Looks like that. And it's secured in place, looks good like that. All right, let's take a look at things. Okie doke, I'm gonna call it good for now. We've still got some touching up to do, and we've got to put on some varnish and things like that, but as you guys can see, you gotta do both sides. It's starting to look really, really awesome. Just some great detail there that honestly, this is why I bought the kit. I thought that this just looked magnificent, and I can't wait to run it all the rest of the way down the hall on all the sides here. And it's so simple, goes on so easily, and just looks so sharp. And I'm super glad that I went with, we'll get the tight bond out of the way here, that I went with the brass colored paint from AK, sorry. It matches the photo etch brass perfectly, which means that I don't have to paint the photo etch to match, and there's no mismatch, right? Everything looks the same. Everything matches up real nicely, and you end up with this fantastic detail. So we'll clean up all this stuff. You know, what's got to happen there. We'll make sure that all is worked out. But for now, I think that's it. Happy modeling, everybody. Look forward to sharing the next episode with you here, hopefully pretty soon. All right, see ya.